Everything you said we already knew, more or less.
Well, here's something that you didn't know. 2 of those special atomic bombs haven't gone off.
Are you replaceable? I'd like to start with this question. Can I see a show of hands of those of you who think you're replaceable, please? And can I see a show of hands of those of you who think you're irreplaceable? Great. So every time I ask this question, I get the same result, because replaceability is a polarizing question. And I like asking polarizing questions, because I think they're exactly what's needed to make people think, to make people change, and to make society move forward. So if you were to ask me this question, I'd say both yes and no. And in today's talk, I'm going to share with you my reasons, starting with the yes. You see, I grew up during the Lebanese war, and I got accustomed to seeing pictures like this every single day of my childhood. The war, like many, many difficult and ugly things in life, teaches us amazing lessons. And one of the things the war taught me is that almost everything in life is replaceable. So if you take a look at this picture, you realize that your clothes hanging, your belongings are replaceable, the car behind me is replaceable, buildings are replaceable, homes are replaceable, jobs are replaceable, pretty much everything in life is replaceable. To the extent that if you get injured, your heart is even replaceable. Another beautiful thing the war taught me is to live with no fear. And I took this special skill with me into my life and into my adult life and my career, and I worked with no fear. And I must say that it worked in my favor most of the time. Because when you work with no fear, you're able to do great things. You're able to innovate, you're able to disrupt, you're able to make impact. But there were times in my life when working with no fear didn't work in my favor. Times, for example, when I've worked with a few insecure bosses. I'm sure you all have seen one of those. Or times when I've worked in cultures that don't accommodate disruption and innovation. And last but not least, times when I've worked with colleagues who do whatever they can to hang on to their seats in an effort to make themselves irreplaceable. Speaking of seats, one day I was sitting in my office and I saw this beautiful quote. The quote says, "A bird sitting or standing on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking, because her trust is not on the branch, but on her own wings." And this beautiful quote stayed with me as well, until one day I myself was replaced. And on that day, instead of feeling angry, I was actually really happy, genuinely very, very happy. And what I did on that day is I behaved exactly like that bird. I opened up my wings and I flew with so much integrity. And I decided on that day that I'd wake up every day as much as possible and do whatever I can to live and work with purpose and to make every one of my dreams come true. And one of these was starting my own consulting, which I called Stories at the time. And the reason why I called it Stories is because I truly believe that on our deathbed, given the experience that I've had in my life, the only thing that truly matters in life are the stories we leave behind. And I started going around from one company to the next, trying to do whatever I can to create a transformation, essentially acting like a corporate super nanny, exactly like a super nanny would do in a normal home. She'd go in, she'd observe, she'd give tips, she'd build capacity, and she'd leave. I did the exact same thing in a corporate environment, and I'd do that and I'd leave, essentially making myself replaceable. And while I was doing this, the talk of town has been on robotics and artificial intelligence, which threaten to take away all our jobs. In fact, in the next 5 years, robotics and artificial intelligence will take over 75 million jobs globally. And while there's been so much talk on the topic, I'm not sure that there's been enough action to create corporate cultures that are disruptive and innovative enough to accommodate this trend. Up to this point, what I've done is I've shared with you a few reasons that I think everything in life is replaceable. What I'd like to do in the second half of my talk is share with you 3 things which I think are irreplaceable in life. And for me, this is the most important message. The first thing in life that's irreplaceable is living and working with no purpose. Because for me, no robot can ever replace that. I took this picture of my 2-year-old son, who's amongst us here today. And he's right here in the corner at the bottom of the picture with his hands wide open and looking up with a lot of wonder to this background picture. The picture reminded me of a Japanese concept called ikigai. Ikigai basically is a concept that teaches us that if we want to live with purpose, we need to do what we love, what the world needs, and what we're really good at. And at the intersection of these things is our reason for being or our purpose. And for me, that's already a great starting point to irreplaceability. And so what I ask each of you to do is to do the same as my 2-year-old does. Open your hands up, look up with a lot of faith, and ask yourself, why did God put me here? Because I promise you, none of you here in this room is an accident. And what could I do to make an impact? And start from a place of giving before you start from a place of receiving. And as you do that, look at your fingerprints, which are so unique to you, because nobody else has these fingerprints. And ask yourself, what can I do with my fingerprint every single day to create influence? And by influence, I don't mean what influencers with a lot of followers are doing today. For me, that's not necessarily influence. By influence, I mean speaking up for those who have no influence. Up to this point in my life, I've never had a social media following, and I've never posted things online, maybe a few things here and there, because I never really believed that we needed that in order to make impact and to create influence. Mother Teresa never had Instagram, did she? But I'm no Mother Teresa, and I realized that we live in a different day and age, so I finally started posting a few things here and there on my LinkedIn account. I created an Instagram account recently, 2 weeks ago, and started posting a few things just to watch people's reactions. And although I don't have 0.001% of what influencers have today, my thoughts are, if I can influence one person a day, then that's already a great starting point to irreplaceability. The second thing which I think is irreplaceable in life are the stories we leave behind. And as I mentioned earlier, on our deathbed, the only thing we really have is the story we leave behind. So my question to each of you today is, what story do you leave behind? What story do you want to leave behind? And ask yourself this question every day. Ask yourself, why do I exist? By all means. But the more important question to ask yourself is, why not? Why not disrupt? And why not do whatever I can to achieve my purpose and my dreams? My kids ask me this question every day, why not? And I promise you, they always get what they want when they ask me why not. You know why? Because they ask it with so much belief and conviction. And so my request from each of you is to do the same. Ask yourself why, but more importantly, ask yourself why not with the conviction and the belief of a 2-year-old. And I promise you that's a great starting point to getting what you want. And if you're an employer listening to this, I ask you to ask yourself the same thing. What story do you want your company to have? Because in this day and age, nobody cares about your product marketing. Nobody. But somebody might care about the story that you leave behind. And ask yourself, why not create innovative corporate cultures that allow you to deal with the 4th industrial revolution and robotics and artificial intelligence. Last but not least, the third thing which I think is irreplaceable in life, and that's the one that's closest to my heart, and that's motherhood. You see, as a mom, you can take away everything you want, everything, and it wouldn't matter. Maybe not the husband who's here supporting me, I have to be nice to him, but you can take away my jobs, you can take away my projects, you can take away my home, it's all replaceable, right? But what you can't take away from me is the fact that I'm a mom to these 3 kids. And for me, that's irreplaceable. As moms, we often lose our purpose along the journey. I know that I have. And I speak in a lot of conferences, and I get a lot of moms coming up to me at the end asking me, what can I do to find my purpose again? What can I do to come back into the workplace at a time when employers are keeping their doors shut in my face because they don't want people who have been out of the market for some time? And my answer to these moms is very untraditional. Others tell them the basics. Update your CV, go network, update your skills. I don't buy any of that. What I say to these moms is, first and foremost, start by realizing that you're doing the most noble job on earth. By being a mom, you're doing the most noble job on earth. And you're irreplaceable. Because you could go back into the workplace, and a company could drop you like this any minute. But nobody can ever replace you to your kids. And when you do that, you automatically change your psychology and you become more confident. And that's exactly what you need in order to come back into the workplace. The other thing that I say to moms is to not kill themselves and work on their weaknesses and go out of their way to update their skills. Because moms already have amazing skills. I hope you all agree with me. Yes, yes. Moms have amazing leadership skills. Nobody leads like a mother leads, nobody. And so my message to employers whose doors are closed is to remember that you are where you are today because of your mom and her leadership skills. And as employers, we go out of our way teaching our employees about leadership skills. We send them to 1 million courses, we send them to offsites, and they teach them some pretty good things. I've been on many of these. But I have to tell you that the best offsite I've ever been on in my life is the offsite I live every single day in my own home. Because motherhood is hard. And that's the best test of leadership any person can have. And if only employers can learn from the skills of a mom who's a leader who leads her home with excellence, I think our companies would be in better shape. Moms do everything that they teach us in leadership courses, everything, and so much more. Moms set direction. Moms inspire. Moms coach. Moms are cheerleaders. Moms pick our hand when we're having a bad day. Moms lead with compassion, and the list goes on and on and on. But the one thing that moms do, which nobody ever teaches us in leadership courses, is they accept their kids for who they are. And they love their kids unconditionally. And for me, that's a great starting point to innovation and to disruption. And we kill it from a very young age. Our kids are innovative and they're disruptive. So if employers were to take these lessons from moms, especially that last one, and accept our employees for who they are, I think companies would be in a much better place. They'd be much more innovative, they'd be much more disruptive, and they'd be able to accommodate the 4th industrial revolution in a much better way. To conclude, I truly believe that the starting point of making the world a better place starts in our own homes. And I truly believe that the starting point of that is motherhood. And on that note, I'd like to go back to that first slide that I started with, to this ugliness and to this mess and to this chaos. And I'd like to thank my own mom who taught me a very valuable lesson in life, which is to have faith and inner peace in the midst of this chaos, because it's possible. And I'd like to dedicate this talk to her and to my 3 kids who are amongst you here today, with the hope that when they become older and part of the corporate world, among many, many robots, they remember the lessons that their mommy taught them. May you all go and create stories worth sharing. Thank you.